welcome to sunny St. Moritz in Switzerland. It's race 6 of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup for two-man bob at the home of ice sliding. Over 130 years ago, they started racing down the valley from St. Moritz to Celerina, and we still do in the same footprint of the track that is hand-built every year. Hello, everybody. I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me, fresh from the women's race, Anne van here in the house of Belgium. And Anne, every year is handmade, and every year it's subtly different. So this year, where are the minefields for our drivers?
The most difficult part is definitely at the top of the track. You saw a lot of the women, also me, struggling with this first kink. It's been really tricky to get around without hitting or skidding, definitely without hitting that left wall. And here's second kink. You have to be so quiet. It's like 18 to 20 seconds of doing nothing. You can only lose time there. Going into wall has been very tricky this year. Definitely the exit, a lot of hits on the right side before you're going into snake 1, snake 2. It's been really the tricky part of the track this season. And then here, coming out of sunny, obviously I made the mistake there earlier today through Nash and Dixon, and then a lot of hits as well in the straightaway leading up to Horseshoe. Horseshoe has been quite easy this year, then Telephone, Shamrock, and here the track is very gentle. You don't need to do a lot of driving, just staying with the curves, using the pressure. And here the 4 right curves, 3 bridge, then going underneath the train and leap, and then going into Gundersachs. And here is where you go to top speed, going into Martino. It's been quite easy this season, but Portago is a little tricky. A lot of hits on the left side before going into the finish straight, and it's a really long finish straight here. A lot of time for the brakeman to get on the brakes, and then here uphill to the finish house.
Yes, it's been a very demanding top part of the track. If you're not ahead at Horseshoe, you're in all sorts of trouble. Well, Francesco Friedrich is our World Cup points leader. 2 more races after this. We have a double race weekend in Sigulda in a couple of weeks' time, so we could see a lot of changes there. And that's the rest of our World Cup leaders. So Francesco Friedrich, last year's winner in the field. So too are the other podium finishers. Johannes Lochner, who took silver, he is back in a 2-man sled. And he's been replaced since Christmas by Richard Olsner, but Olsner already has a spot in Worlds as the junior world champion. And for Hansi to go to the World Championships as a 3rd German sled, not having raced a 2-man since before Christmas, didn't make any sense to me or anybody else, it seems. So he's back in the World Cup squad. But look at this. I mean, are we in Innsbruck? Our air temperature should be around -8 or -10, despite the sun. Ice temperature, positive. I can't think I've ever seen anything other than -8 or 10 ice. It's a very different St. Moritz this weekend.
Very different St. Moritz, and it's been weird all week. We had snow in the first 2 training days, which has been irregular for us, and then final training day on Thursday was quite warm. It was sunny, so it was very different. And then today, even warmer. The ice is very soft, so it's going to be a very different feel for all the drivers than compared to what they had in training.
Well, the view remains the same, except you can see large patches of no snow up at the top of the track. Race 6 of the BMW IBSF 2-man bobsleigh World Cup. We kick off the action with Markus Treichel and Christian Huber from Austria. Martin Haven and Anne van Nieuwenhuis watching the action. Treichel last year in 15th place.
Little trouble there getting into the sled, and his push bar still out, 5:34.
Well, we haven't had an official race on the track, apart from the Youth Olympics, where they don't have 2-seater bobs, it's only monobobs. So all the records being established today for this season.
He got around the first 2 kinks clean, but overdrives it there and goes into a huge skid going into snake 1.
And there's no pressure to stop the sled skidding at this point, is there?
It is so difficult to get around these top parts, and he's looking like he's very skiddy all the way down, and this might be the ice conditions being so different, so much warmer than we're used to.
And of course, everybody will have made their runner choices yesterday, prepped the runners, polished them. You might have done a second set. You might have fat runners and thin runners, and trying to guess on what happened in the women's race, which way you're going to go.
Yeah, definitely. And we all, you know, we all have the news sites and the media sites. Ooh, big skid there coming out of Gundersachs as well. So we like to check the weather before the race and make a calculated guess.
Yeah. Okay, so track record 109.07. We will see that drop. undoubtedly during this run, but it's always nice to be first off. You're guaranteed pretty much a start record and a track record, particularly this year when there's been no previous two-man races.
But it's very strange because we saw the women earlier today. They were going faster than a 109,
yep.
Which is really weird because normally the track speeds up, but in these conditions, I'm thinking it's going to tear down.
Yeah.
Big skid there, hitting the bumper before going into Snake 1. Just rubbing the wall there, pushes him a little away. And then coming out of Günter Sachs with a skid as well.
You can see the marks in front of him from the forerunners. They both ended up in the wall further down the ice. Well, next up is Xiao Yujun of China, the 25-year-old in his 6th World Cup start. He did the Junior Worlds here last season, as did Marcus Treichel, but that is his only other race on this track apart from today.
Gets in quite early to make sure he's on the steering handles, getting around that first kink. 5:27. And clean around the second kink as well. You have to be so quiet in that part, and you're really trying to keep your sled middle of that straightaway.
Two Chinese sleds produced good speed at the bottom of the track in the women's race, so looking to see what sort of markers he lays down as well.
He's looking very clean, the snake part, and coming clean out of Sunny as well.
So what sled's the Chinese using? Is that a Wimmer or Wallner? Sure. But again, pretty quick. Should be at 105. That's pretty decent speed as they head down from Horseshoe.
Very clean lines. A little late there going into Nameless, but a good control around tree and bridge. Early entrance.
Yeah. Nice, good speed. Treichel 135 at the bottom. He should be over 137. I was going to say that's how the fastest women's sleds were going. He's not quite there, but a 108.27.
Very good run of the Chinese pilot.
Yeah. Now, not much experience on the track here once before to race. You can't come here in the spring or the autumn because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So it's not like Lake Placid or Altenburg or somewhere else where you can do pre or post-season training. You can only race when there's races.
Yeah, exactly. So it's only 6 runs in training where you can learn this track. And it's very challenging for all of us.
Not big height in Horseshoe.
No, not the greatest height there, but it gets it around a little long on it. And just the early entrance into Telephone.
Yeah, you see the brakeman getting bumped there as he picks up Telephone early. So that's all energy that's not driving them forward. Yoonjin Suk of Korea, 29-year-old driver, his 16th World Cup start, and this is a bit of a landmark for him. After converting from the brakes, this is his 10th two-man World Cup start as a driver. Well, his best here was 20th place. That's his only race on this track.
Running it very long, and he's waiting to get the push bar in to get around that first kink and then get it in.
Yeah, a mistake there if you're not driving compared to the tiny bit of drag from the push bar handle. There's no balance there, is there?
Well, definitely if you run it that long, it's a good option to first drive it around the kink and then get it down. Good line out of wall and good control in Snake 1 and Snake 2. Little skid there going late into Nash, and that's why he's get late height and taps before going into Dixon. Also not the highest line in Horseshoe, and doesn't have the same speed as a Chinese sled coming out of Horseshoe there.
Yeah, half a kilometre an hour down, 1300s gap. Just about level with the Chinese sled.
Very clean lines there at the bottom of the track. And the 4 right curves.
Keeps it off the wall as well, so this should see him into the lead. Little touch between Martineau and Portago.
Ooh, and really cut it there.
108.09, so another new track record. But Martineau and Portago, you often get that hit on the right between the two of them, and because it's uphill out to Martineau, that hurts you. But Portago is very odd, isn't it? It's like the corner finishes, then it starts again.
It's going really steep uphill in Portago, so you want to cut it, but when you cut it, you also create pressure. So as soon as you open your steer, it pulls you back to the right, and then you get onto the curve again if you didn't time it well.
Well, great super slow-mo view of the load of Soo Jung and Kim Jin-soo behind him. Jin-soo's 9th two-man World Cup. It's his second race with Suk, his driver. Predominantly he was with Yun Jong-won before. Now next up, Dominic Devorjac, not Brad Hall. Dominic Devorjac driving Brad Hall's own two-man sled. So 27th World Cup race for Dvorjak and a landmark for him as well. It's his 25th as a driver. Ooh,
just gets around it, 5:13, but he gets into that first kink with a lot of speed, and then it's very hard to drive it around. Just had a little skid coming off it, but didn't hit the wall, and then straightened it after the second kink as well.
And we can see everybody having those problems.
There too.
Yeah, and that puts him late onto wall and into snake. Out of Sunny. Don't get great view of Sunny because the shades are always down.
And he's looking quite skiddy down the track. It's not big skids, but just a little unstable coming out of Nash and Dixon too.
And that's interesting because that's sort of what it always looks like when Brad Hall is driving a sled. So I wonder if it's something with the sled setup and the runner combination that's not a Brad Hall thing. It's with this sled.
It's a BTC kind of thing maybe, but this sled.
Well, even Kaylee was struggling with the front of her sled, winning the women's race today.
That's a clean line, little wobble there in the straightaway up to Martino.
New track record beckons 1:38.2. Good speed, I mean really good speed at the bottom. And that is a really solid run, 1:07.90.
Yeah, and he's driving Brad's sled this week because Brad is driving the new Walther that he was testing last week in Koenigsee. So Brad has been testing that this week. So they switched up for the whole week.
So where's Dvorjak's two-man? Who's driving that? Maybe that's already on its way to Sigulda or next week for training in Altenburg.
That's possible. In, down, just in time before they get onto that first kink, and that's why he drifted off.
Got away.
Yeah.
Got away with that as well, because Jakub Nosik, when he loaded, it bumped the sled out of the grooves. They fell back in again, so they were lucky.
Yeah. And then we saw the slow-mo of Wall, just a little bit too much pressure, putting him into that skid.
Yeah, you have to get onto wall earlier than you think, don't you? And I think that's the real danger with it this year. Roman Heinrich of France next up. Last year, Dominic Dvorjac finished 10th. Roman Heinrich was just in front of him in 9th. He's had 3 World Cup starts here.
And this is a track where he generally does well. So I'm interested to see how he will do today.
Ooh, just avoids the wall. 5:24 the start. Well, he had 18 two-man races as a brakeman. This is his 18th as a driver.
You could really see him try to get low as possible in that straightaway. Just avoiding that wall. Great entrance into Snake 1.
But then flopped
control
into Snake 2.
Yeah.
So too long on Snake. Straight off from Sunny into Nash and Dixon. Avoids the walls.
Nice middle lines down the track there.
But he's 2/10 back. So the mistakes aren't there or visible, but he's not as fast as he needs to be compared to Dominic Dvorjac.
A little middle there as well. You want to get the early entrance into Nameless. But good speed there, 1:16.1.
Yeah, still shy of Dvorjac. He's not going to overhaul him at the line unless he has a really good run through here. Martineau and Portago crossing the Cresta Run track there. But again, hits the inside wall. Saw so much of that in the women's race earlier. 1:08.04. So he's in second place, 500s ahead of Yunjin Suk.
It's a difficult corner to get right because you cannot really see the exit until it's there, but you need to anticipate it. So it's kind of a guess, and you know, you need to guess at what speed am I going now, when should I start cutting it to get out clean. It's a tricky one to get right.
Dorian Alteville opens the trapdoor and drops into the sled. You see there, taking the steer just to get on to the zero kink a little later than some of the others. So Roman Heinrich second behind Dominic Dvorjac. And we've seen Brad Hall's sled already. He is at the line. Dvorjac drove his sled down. 5 sleds down, 15 to go. First heat, race 6 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. We're in St. Moritz in Switzerland. Brad Hall and Greg Cackett, their first time ever in this brand new two-man Valna sled.
5:17 and just takes a tap coming out of that first kink.
400 slower than the start of our leader, Dominic Dvorjac, but only the 4th fastest speed, and that's that little variation down the first straight.
And you could see him like trying to avoid the walls and wall. That's a great exit of wall. Nice middle line, good control there in Snake. A little late going into Sunny, but...
Well, he's not losing any more time, except he skids there into Nash and Dixon. Big hit in Dixon. He's going to come sideways off down towards the horseshoe.
That's the exact same mistake that I made in the second run.
100.7 kilometers an hour,
No
5 kilometers an hour down on Dominic Dvorjac in Brad's own sled. Dvorjac said last week this sled does steer very differently to the BTC that they're both used to.
Oh yeah, the bungees are really, yeah, Brad talked to me that the bungees are very different feeling than the BTC bungees, so it's steering very different than what he's used to, and he only had 4 trips down this sled.
Okay, 108.01, 300s behind Roman Heinrich.
Considering that mistake in the middle of the track, that was a good job catching up at the bottom of the track.
That may well be good enough to put Dvorjac, Hall and Heinrich in the top 10. But we'll have to wait and see. We've still got 3 strong German sleds in the mix. Justin Crips to come as well for Canada.
Just a little high at the exit there and then hits the wall, pushes him away and then skids, and that makes him go late into Nash, and then you have late height tap again before going into Dixon, and you have to drive more to get it off. Little tap there and then goes late into horseshoe.
Well, he wasn't as high off Dixon as Stephanie Schneider in the second heat of the women's race, but it didn't look great. Well, next up is Justin Crips with Cam Stones behind him. 65th World Cup start for Crips.
5:30.
Wow, fantastic getaway, tying the start record.
And just taking that tap out of kink 1, like we saw the French sled do, but then straightens it out. Looking very stable there in that second kink.
Well, historically, this hasn't been a bad track for Justin Crips.
Really good exit.
I don't know what is.
Yeah, really good exit out of wall and good control on the snake curves.
Last Canadian medal on this track, Lyndon Rush and Lascelles Brown a decade ago, tied for gold with Andrea Langer and Kevin Kuska.
Not the highest line in horseshoe, but a good entrance into telephone.
Good speed as well, not quite as quick as Dvorjac.
Very good line there, going into tree.
1:16.5, equal speed, here we go. This is where he can stretch his legs a little. Good exit here, nice run down the straight. He's going to have the lead at the line as long as he doesn't give it all away here in Portago. 1:07.55, so the first down into the 7s. And that is a big advantage, second into the 7s, that's a big advantage. 3,500s ahead of Dominic Dvorjac. This could be a good track for Justin Crips. His teammate Christine de Bruyne was in the battle for bronze, ended up in 5th position today, but Crips could be in the medal hunt as well.
Here, nice middle line going into horseshoe. Not the highest line there. You want to be as close to the roof as possible to get as much speed going in the exit, but then good control, driving it down and opening it back up before going into telephone. He's been really good in training, so I think this is going to be a run to challenge for the medals.
So what about this young man? For the first time in his European campaign, Hunter Church is at a track where he has raced before, just once. Did the Junior Worlds here 2 seasons ago. 10th place in Innsbruck last week. His World Cup bests are a pair of 5th places in Lake Placid to start the season. Got Josh Williamson behind him in Hunter Church's 8th World Cup race.
5:23 and just a little tap coming out of that first kink. Something we saw a lot in training. A lot of people did this tap, but if it sets you up straight going into that second kink, it's not the worst line.
These two raced here together in the Junior Worlds in 2018, and Josh was pushing Justin Olsen in the World Cup race last year here in St. Moritz.
You could see him driving it over to an earlier entrance into Nash, and then just hits the wall before going into horseshoe. But good line exit there.
Only 1,800s away from Justin Crips. Think how many times Crips has been here.
Yeah, a little bit too high at the exit of Shamrock. but a good control then going down the track.
Second fastest sled, 1:16.3. Hunter Church challenging for the lead of the race. How far away will he be? Second fastest speed at the bottom. That's as quick as Crips, and how close to the leader? 3100s back, so he's 400s ahead of Devorjac and 1500s ahead of Brad Hall. It's another really good first drive down here for Hunter Church. And again, because he's actually raced here once before, he gets no extra heats. Every other racetrack he's been at, he gets 8 runs instead of 6.
And here, coming out of Sunny, you could see he almost skidded, but then drives it back over to an earlier entrance into Nash. And just avoids the wall going into Dixon.
So Hunter Church in second place with 8 sleds down. And we get to the man who won here last year. His previous victory on this track, 2013 in the World Championships. But he's only won here once in World Cup. But he won everywhere last year.
5:08, but a hit and skid coming out of that first curve.
Well, as Torsten Margis said last week, he is human.
He is human, and
doesn't often look it.
He's going into that first kink with the highest speed, with the highest velocity of all the sleds, so it's a little trickier for him to get around clean.
5th two-man World Cup for his brakeman, Alexander Schuller. Schuller has won on each of the 4 previous occasions because he's been with Friedrich.
A little tap going there into Dixon, and late going into Horseshoe. That helps him to get more height, actually.
Shoots you up to the roof, doesn't it?
Yes, and good speed there, 106.1.
Excellent speed. This might be as quick as we're going to see.
Great line there from Devil's Dyke to Nameless, and really high speed now at the bottom of the track. Well, you could see him tilt his head, driving around these right curves.
Wow, and look at the speed, 138.8, as quick as anything you'll see today.
Great line there.
Francesco Friedrich, track record and the lead line, almost in the 6s. That sets the bar really high.
Apart from that little tap coming out of kink 1 and a little skid and the touch before going into Dixon, that was a really clean run.
Well, there are 2 Friedrichs. There's Super Speedway Friedrich, who is neat and surgically precise, and there's Dover Saturday Night Short Oval Friedrich, who hits everything in sight.
And is still fast.
And either of them can win, but this was apart from the first couple of mistakes, this is a super smooth run.
Very tidy run. Yeah, he gets into that first kink with a lot of speed, and that's why he's on for a long time and then hits after. And just a little too free into Nash. That's why he gets the height at the end that pushes him across a little too much going into Dixon. But really smooth looking run from Francesco Friedrich.
Oskars Kibermanis of Latvia next up. 54th World Cup start in 2-man alone. 10 2-man medals in his career. His best here, bronze medal last year. Last Latvian winner, 2014-15, Oskars Melbarnis and Damas Dreskins. And they are currently racing Europa Cup in Innsbruck.
Very smooth load, just hits the wall as well, 5:05.
It's a new start record, in fact, that's quicker than anybody.
And great exit speed as well, 57.2. That's a half a kilometer faster than Francesco Friedrich.
Wow. That's their ability to get in and get down and just keep that velocity on board, and every Latvian sled does it.
Great exit there, but already losing speed compared to Francesco Friedrich.
Well, even on this chart, you can hear the slightly more loose, jingly noise that this BTC sled makes.
Yes, it's rattling a little more than we've seen the German sled do.
But look at the speed, 106.6, quicker than Friedrich even.
Excellent speed there. He's trying to find his way back, still at 300ths of a second. Great speed.
Yeah, great speed, 0.4 kilometers an hour quicker. This has got to pay off for him. Just about avoids the wall.
Highest speed there going up. Martino, great exit there.
Don't hit the wall on the exit and you'll be the leader. No.
Just not
400
of a second.
That's impressive stuff from Francesco Friedrich, that even though the Latvian sled had more speed, he just wasn't quick enough.
400ths of a second, well, everyone getting up to that finish line, it's hard to see where you're at. The big screen is very pixeled and you cannot really read what position you're in. So everyone gets there and is like, what position am I in?
What about coming down here? Can you see yourself on the big screen at Horseshoe or are you too busy?
You better not watch it. No. I don't think it's a good idea to check yourself on the big screen there.
Yeah, I'm looking good. Whoa, there's Horseshoe. Okay, so 10 sleds down. Oscar's Kibermanis is second to Francesco Friedrich by a whisker, and Justin Crips leads the pack. 10 down, 10 to go. Next up is Yoon Jung-won of Korea. 48th World Cup start for him. Martin Haven and Anne van Nieuwenhuis watching the action here in sunny St. Moritz.
I'm really digging the eyes there. Oh, just a little skid touch and avoids a second touch. 5:17.
But covering a lot of ice as he sort of meandered around, and all of that should be going forward.
You don't want to be driving there on the straightaway, but like every driver just tries to keep it middle. Little touch there coming out of wall, a little bit too much pressure, and early onto Snake 2 as well.
In fact, this track is so quiet, you can almost hear the driver silently praying, don't slide, don't slide.
Yes, exactly. That's what we're all thinking there around those first two kinks.
Down to Horseshoe. Left-hand line, so middle height through Horseshoe, smoothly through Telephone and Shamrock.
But not big speed coming out of Shamrock there.
Speed is not there at all, is it? 3 kilometers adrift. This is going to leave him down where Justin Crips is. In fact, not even close to Crips.
No, he's tiny mistakes down the track, and especially at the top part of the track, that's cost him a lot of speed, and he's just losing time all the way down.
The only thing he'll want to do is be ahead of Yoonjin Suk, who's in 8th. 9th fastest speed, and at the line, he is in 6th position, so he is ahead of Suk. He's 200s ahead of Brad Hall, and 1/10 ahead of Yoonjin Suk.
And that is the bottom part of the track who brought him back into 6th place, because yeah, those tiny mistakes at the top just cost him a lot of time.
And again, a BTC sled producing good speed at the bottom. So Yoon Jung-won in 6th place. Bit of a heavy load from the driver as well there.
Push bar was down way before they got out of the grooves.
Still in the drive lines. He had enough time to do it while the sled was being steered by those grooves. You can see actually as the drive lines, there is starting to appear a groove in the ice. This ice never grooves up. Might polish up, it never grooves up. I don't know where we are, but we're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. Alexei Stulnev of Russia, 41st World Cup start in 2-man for him. Ilya Malik back behind him.
Ooh, slide, but just avoids the wall there.
Again, holding his breath, just praying it didn't break into a skid.
And you can really see he's trying to get as low as possible, even getting his eyes under the cowling.
Well, we saw that from Stephanie Schneider twice down that straight, completely tucked her head out of sight.
Wow.
And then just sort of checked the line was good, ducked away again, waited for the corner to come to her.
Interesting.
And it's working for him. He's gone from 7th at the start up into 3rd position. He's carrying good speed.
He was really good in training as well, especially with his 4-man. So this is a track he's really liking, I think.
Well, he wasn't in last year's race, but his best here is 5th position a couple of seasons ago. And that's actually only 1 spot away from his World Cup best ever in 2-man.
Great speeds, 117.1. He's also driving that new BTC sled, just like Oscar's Kibermanis.
And great speed down the bottom, 139, quicker than the FES sleds. And Stulnev, 2200s back. Wow. Well, you know that question that we often ask, so who's going to be second then? That's not a name that was in my hat, but I think we might have to contemplate.
He was really good in training, so this is not surprising me.
He's really fluid. That was a good-looking run.
You can see him here ducking his head, trying to get as low as possible, and then just checking, am I still straight? Here, nice shot of the exit of Horseshoe. And going middle late into Telephone. You want to be a little bit earlier there, but if you control it well, there's no problem.
Yeah, good speed through the forest as well. Oscar's Kibermanis still the fastest sled. Hot strikes for Michael Vogt and Sandro Michel back on the sled for the first time since La Plania. World Cup best for Michael Vogt, bronze in La Plana 3 weeks ago. Best here, 4th place last year, but a huge skid for the Swiss slider.
Double skid, and now gets it under control again. And
there's the result.
12th fastest speed.
And it was the 7th fastest start.
5:19, just like Stulnev, but such a big difference in speed. And you can see the gap has grown so much already going into wall. Great line there coming out of wall, good control. A little long on the snake too. And you can see he's lost so much time already, and that tiny miss. Oh, I made the same mistake as I did.
It's all going wrong. Oh. I didn't mention it's his 13th World Cup race, did I? He obviously walked under a couple of ladders and crossed some black cats on the way to the track as well.
Well, we shouldn't believe in that kind of stuff, but it's just he's starting to catch up a little bit. Just lost so much speed at the top of the track, and it's hard to come back from that.
And again, as we talked about,
and there as well, the back just hits coming out of Günter Sachs, and another skid going up to Martino.
It could hardly be worse, could it? 12th out of 13 sleds for Michael Vogt.
So, such a disappointing result for this young. He's a really talented driver, especially on his home track. This is
4th here last year and 12th in the first heat. Well, now, like Felix Kaiser in the skeleton at home 2 weeks ago and here yesterday, nothing left but to try and go out and break the track record in the second heat.
And here coming out of Sunny with too much pressure, dragging him to the right side of the screen, left side, and then you go late into Nash, get late height, and then hit again for Dixon. And then here you can see pressure again, breaking to a skid, double hit there on the wall before going up to Martino.
And that's the big downside of fat runners, is that when it gets slidey, they just continue sliding.
Well, normally not a lot of people go on fat runners on this track, but with the conditions being so different, I think some of them might have taken the risk to go on fat runners anyway, and this is...
Well, almost everybody in the women's race did, didn't they? Let's see what Nico Walther can produce. 42nd World Cup start.
Actually,
Nico, the winner here 2 years ago.
A lot of the women's were driving really small runners this race.
Okay.
Yeah.
5:23 getaway. They just about got in cleanly.
Yeah, and he had to wait a long time to get his push bar in because he was on that left side of the track, on the right side of the screen for a long time.
New brakeman to the team, Malte Schwenzfeier, and he's arrived just in time. Paul Krentz out for the rest of the season with a broken foot.
Really?
Another of the brakemen has got a calf tear. Nico was just saying at the end of training, he said, you know, okay, life happens, but really...
This has been a lot for him this season. They had injuries in the beginning of the season.
So he started injured, didn't race before January. So he's coming from behind in every draw, and here it should be a benefit, but not this year.
No, late height there in Shamrock, and that's why he slided off going into Devil's Dyke. Good speed, not the same speed as Kibermanis or Stulnev.
But still driving himself up into the top half dozen, trying to get close to Justin Crips in 4th place maybe.
But found the speed at the bottom of the track, definitely.
Yeah, great speed. And that might, I think, even be quicker than we saw from Francesco Friedrich's sled. So 5th place of the line, 1:07.64, 900s behind Crips, but over a quarter of a second away from 3rd.
Wie viel? 23 und 50 auf Franz.
So
that's a lot of disappointing ores.
Yeah.
Not the highest line there in Horseshoe, and then you can see him driving down and getting the runner straight again before you're at the exit. And then there, high line, and tries to avoid the wall. You can see him steering before going into Devil's Dyke.
Yeah, got rocked away there out of Shamrock, didn't he? And just saw him getting thrown around in the sled. All take speed away from you. Well, next up is Austria's Benny Meyer with Marcus Sammer. His wife Elizabeth was in the booth yesterday for the skeleton races. Baby Hendricks is in town as well. So what can they produce? Last race here for Benny was the Junior Worlds in 2018, where he took a bronze medal, but a huge skid.
He tried to get around that first curve before getting onto it, and then you could see his back end just got away from him, 5:31.
And that's the alternative, isn't it, is to try and steer to avoid the kink, and it can work.
I tried it in training to not go on the first kink. It did not work. So you need to just get on it and then drive it around.
Again, little flop off Snake into Sunny.
but a good exit there, early going into Nash. Controlling Dixon, early going into Horseshoe.
Just avoided the wall, nice height as well.
Very nice high there.
But no speed, 105.
A little bit high there at the exit of Shamrock as well. Looks like it needs a little bit more controlling there. Good speed, not the highest speed we've seen.
Well, 14th at the start.
Late going into Günther Sachs and then late high. That's why he tapped on the wall going into Martino.
And again, little skid between Martino and Portago. Just avoids the wall on the inside, but 12th at the line.
400s in front of the Chinese sled.
Yep. So sort of battle on his hands there to try and climb back up into the top 10. Marcus Sammer give a little wave to the camera. Saw Benny and Liz yesterday evening at dinner time in good form. But again, like Nico Walther, still struggling with the fitness.
And here you can see he comes out of the groove, tries to get it around already before going on it, and that's why this backhand just slides off. And then here, high at the end of Günther Sachs, hitting the wall in the straightaway up to Martino.
Francesco Friedrich, the race leader from Oscars Kibermanis by a whisker. 15 sleds down at race 6 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. Penultimate race weekend for the two-man sleds. Last double race weekend coming up in Sigulda in a fortnight. This is Li Chunjan of China, Martin Haven and Anne van Nieuwenhuis watching the action trackside in St. Moritz.
And that's a lot of kink one, but just avoids the wall and gets his push bar down when they're still too close to the wall, dragging it on the banchina, the little walls at the side of the track.
Well, we saw the Chinese girls, they've all obviously been told, get round the kink, worry about the push bar on the straight, and they all did the same thing, but he was too close on the left. So did what he was told, just didn't judge it quite right.
Good exit of wall and controlled the line into Snake. Little touch there before going into Nash, and a little touch as well before going into Dixon.
And 5th fastest start, they really got away quickly. He's still in the top 10.
But not so high speed coming out of Shamrock there.
We saw his teammate Xiao Yijun having decent speed down the bottom, 1:14.4.
A little late going into bridge, but a good control there. You want to be middle early, so always on the left side of the track, going into that right curves.
Well, Lee is really a two-man exponent at the moment. Hasn't done a World Cup four-man race. 6900s back in 6th. Yeah, absolutely.
Fabio's reaction was brilliant.
Yeah, that was
like, whoa, where did
yeah.
that come from?
Well, he was in the top 6 all the way down. Now, it doesn't show on your track, on your TV as the split time, so we're seeing that. And in fact, out of
he went from
the forest, he was up in 5th fastest.
Yeah, 5th to 8th to 9th to 6th to 5 to 6.
Yep.
It's a little unstable drive, but great start.
And the sled has clearly got good speed. And here...
And there's still a lot of things he could clean up in the second run to get even faster.
Did what he was told, just needed to do it a little later.
Yeah.
But, again, learning very fast. Top 6 run for Lee. That's very impressive indeed. 4 sleds to go in the first of our 2 heats, and now a World Cup debutante, at least in the front seat. Mikko Kronen's been a brakeman before, started driving last year while still braking for his Swiss teammates, and a big skid for him.
He ran it very long, 5:13. That's a 3rd fastest start, so that shows that he was a really quick brakeman on the front handle now.
Last time he was here was in the World Cup 2 years ago. He was pushing Clemens Bracher. They won the race.
Okay. A little much too much pressure there coming out of wall. The hits lower line there in Sunny, good control, and makes it almost the same mistake. Yeah.
Same skids and everything. It's almost like it's a carbon copy run. 6th fastest though, 3rd fastest start.
And still decent speed coming out of Shamrock there.
This is only, like Vogt, when he came to World Cup in his 2nd year. This is only Kronen's 2nd year of driving. He was a brakeman in Pyeongchang. He was braking last year as well for Billy Meyerhans in Whistler.
Little wobble there, but doesn't touch the wall before, and high speed at the end of the track.
Wow. Top 10 run. It's 8th place, 107.87. Welcome to the World Cup for Mikkel Kronen. Seaman Friedrich made his debut last week. Another brakeman converted to the front seat.
And if he cleans up those mistakes at the top of the track, he's going to catch some more sleds in the second run.
Well, he's relatively inexperienced and very inexperienced here. He'll probably make different mistakes, but that is a great way to start, isn't it? Third fastest getaway.
He actually had a training week here before because he was not in World Cup, so he has been driving this track more than any pilot of the field so far. Coming out of Sunny with too much pressure and then hitting, going late in, late height, and then hitting again before going into Dixon.
Brakeman Marco Tanner there on the right. First World Cup 2017 with Beat Hefty, but he hasn't had a race in 26 months. So, yeah, I know. OK, next up, Johannes Lochner, silver medalist on this track last year, the winner here 3 seasons ago, and back in two-man at last. Christopher Weber behind him. His last two-man race was last year's World Championships.
5:07.
Wow. OK, listen, Hansi has got a point to prove, hasn't he? He is back in the two-man. Richard Olsner, who beat him to get into the team, has a spot in the World Championships anyway. There's no point in Hansi not driving before they go to Altenburg, which is not even his home track.
Good lines at the top of the track. Good speed. 1300s in front going into Sunny.
Nice and smooth.
Good line there.
Any time you are ever in front of Francesco Friedrich, you've got a good run going, and Hansi wants this to be gold.
High line there. Great, and he's good speed, 106.3. That's only 0.3 slower than the fastest sled of Kibermanis.
That's as quick as any of the German sleds.
And he's just speeding away now, 117.5. Wow. Great looking run. He said during training it felt so strange to get back into a two-man sled. It's so tiny, there's no space, but he's driving it really well.
It's like he was never away. He's going to lead at the first into the 60s.
3300s in front. That late start draw is it's a gift now.
It should be a gift, but this weekend, look at Christopher Weber. He's absolutely stoked.
Wow.
The German selection races between Christmas and the New Year were in Altenburg. Olsner and Friedrich and Walther are all from Altenburg. Hansi is not. He got beaten for the spot on the team, but now he's back and he wants to make the point.
Nice high line, just a tiny steer off, get it back to parallel. Little drop off there. I think that's from Leap going into Günter Sachs, and yeah, they're very pleased with that.
And listen, he was the joint World Cup leader at Christmas. He and Friedrich had a gold and a silver each in Lake Placid. It's not like he can't drive.
Yeah.
Well, next up, our other partner at dinner last night, Ivo de Bruin of the Netherlands, with Dennis Venker behind him. Best race here for Ivo was last year, 11th place, and that's
great line
run
around the first kink. 5:24, 8th fastest speed, and that's really because he drove it around that first kink so well. Good load of the brakeman, good drive of Ivo.
14th fastest push, they got the 8th best velocity because they didn't skid.
Oh, it just wobbles the runners there a little bit to avoid that wall, but it was a good-looking exit out of wall. Good exit there, coming out of Sunny into Nash as well.
I know that Christine de Bruin used narrow runners in the women's race. It looks a little as though maybe Ivo is doing the same. He's got good control of the speed, but it's not high speed.
Little high there. Not the highest speed, but close to 106.
Yep.
And 117 is definitely good speed out of his new Eurotech sled.
Super smooth.
Good looking run from Ivo so far.
Never finished higher than 11th. This is a
good
top
speed.
6 run from Ivo de Bruin. Come on, Ivo, at the line. All the Dutch in the crowd.
Yes, 107.76 in 7th place. It's a great run from Ivo.
Well, there are his two foreman brakemen giving the big thumbs up, nearly in the top 6. How far behind previous winner Nico Walther? Just 1200ths of a second. That's a really solid run from Ivo de Bruin.
Great job.
Lecker.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with that. Nice high line and horseshoe.
Great to watch the head and then watch the runner tips follow where the eyes are going. He's looking exactly where he wants the sled to go.
And then here, flopping off a little bit, but stays right on the screen, so left in the track.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you want. Yeah, great run from Ivo. Good job.
Really good. Really good. Our final sled, Maxim Anjanov, returns to the World Cup. His 34th World Cup start. Best here, 6th position in 2016. Last year, it wasn't a great year for the Russian sleds. He was 17th.
Yeah, he's back because a lot of the Russian drivers are in Eagles for the European Junior Championships.
Almost everybody.
Yeah, where Gajtukovic actually won the two-man race, so good job from him.
Bremen Kirilantuk, his first World Cup start since Innsbruck in 2017.
Wow.
I know. So it's interesting to see him back for headshots now. Kirilantuk, the Bremen, 33 years old. Must be one of the oldest in the field. But look at the way that he is driving here, hanging on to a top 12 position.
Very clean run so far. No mistakes, no skids. A little late going into horseshoe there. But controls it well. Not the highest line. Decent speed coming out of Shamrock.
Yeah, this is a really nice looking run. But the speed is drifting away, isn't it?
Well, hangs on with 116.9. A good looking run there around the 4 right curves.
Trying to get himself up into the top 10. Again, it does appear that the late draw effect is helping.
Wow.
9th place.
Definitely found the speed at the bottom of the track. And he's in a tight group of sleds, just 200s behind Lee from China, 100 in front of Hunter Church, 200 in front of Michael Kuonen, 500s in front of Dominik Dvorak. That's a really tight group there in the middle of the field.
Well, all those guys, Kuonen 4th fastest at the start, Dvorak 4th fastest, and Wan and Hall 7th quickest. We thought they were going to be top 10 runs. They're all outside the top 10 now because they had not maybe the faster ice.
Well, I think St. Moritz proved again that the late start draw is not a bad thing here.
Yeah, he's gone from 16th at the start to 9th at the finish line. So in our top 5, we have sleds that started 18th, Lochner, 9th, Friedrich, 10th, Kibermanis, 12th, Stulnev, and 7th, Crips. And then 6th position, Nico Walther started in 14th. But our first heat ends with Johannes Lochner as our race leader. And Francesco Friedrich is going to have to really go somewhere special. Lochner leads by 33 hundredths, which basically means Friedrich's going to be 6 tenths better.
It was a big run from Johannes Lochner. I pushed Francesco Friedrich by 100 and drove a brilliant line all the way down the track, found great speed at the bottom of the track. He did a wonderful job.
Lochner's first ever two-man World Cup start was here in January 2015, where he finished 5th. He was the winner here 2 years later. He has not been off the podium since, and he leads by 33 hundredths over Francesco Friedrich, his teammate. Oskars Kibermanis in 3rd. Is anyone going to get to him from behind? I don't know. That might be the medals, but St. Moritz has been odd this season. Let's see what happens in the second heat. Join Anne van Nieuwenhuis, me, Martin Haven, and the rest of the IBSF TV crew for our second heat action. The sleds will be here at 2:30 local, 13:30 Greenwich Mean Time. Join us then. Until then, it's goodbye from St. Moritz for the moment.
Yeah!